and visiting friends. The issue that we propose to deal with this afternoon is really the issue of corruption in Jamaica, which has reached crisis proportions. The recently released Global Corruption Barometer, which was released on the 23rd of September, points to the fact that 78% of Jamaicans feel that corruption is a big problem in government. 50% of Jamaicans say that corruption has gotten worse over the past year. And 67% of our citizens believe that government is run on behalf and by a few big interests looking out for themselves. This is not only a moral issue, but it has economic consequences of serious proportions. It is estimated by the UWI Institute for Sustainable Development and National Integrity Action that the cost of corruption is 7% of Jamaica's gross domestic product, or some 141.8, almost 142 billion Jamaican dollars annually. That is more than the combined budget of the Ministries of National Security and the Ministry of Justice. But recent actions, and this is the heart of our concern, recent actions by the government of Jamaica, or inaction one might say, suggest that in the face of this huge crisis that the country is confronted with, the government is in fact normalizing corrupt behavior in public life and in government. I'd point to the fact of the return of the president of the Caribbean Maritime University to his post without comment from the government and without any indications that the investigations are complete. He had taken leave from his job and said that it was to allow the investigations to be completed. He has returned. There has been no comment from the Prime Minister, who is the minister responsible, or the minister with day-to-day oversight, Minister Carl Samuda, and there is no indication that the investigations are complete. It is also a fact that staff, including one former MP, who were inappropriately appointed to the CMU, continue in their jobs and continue to receive pay without any interruption. No arrests have been made, neither in relation to the misuse of funds and abuse of funds in the Ministry of Education or the Caribbean Maritime Institute, despite the fact that much evidence has been provided publicly and in the Parliament about the misuse of such funds. Now imagine the situation that it would have been for some poor Jamaican who had stolen some mangoes or a bunch of bananas. They would have been, for the most part, arrested, charged, if not tried. But in the case of millions of dollars of public funds misuse, nothing has been heard in terms of arrests. All of this in relation to education, where parents struggle every day to send their children to school, to find out only, as was said by the president of the JTA today, that the schools have no equipment, that they have no books, and they don't have the basic facilities needed to ensure success on the part of our students. This is also the situation in relation to the Petrojam and Nessal scandals. No court action is proceeding. No arrests have been made by MOCA or prosecutions instituted by the National Integrity Commission. The board of the PCJ, which had supervisory responsibility for Petrojam remains in place, there is clearly a pattern of conduct here. There have been many scandals over the last 3 years where investigations have got underway, and there are reports that they have been completed, yet no action has been taken. There was no action taken by the Prime Minister in relation to the debushing scandal, where several ministers were named in the report of the Contractor General. The Universal Service Fund issue, with its nepotism and cronyism, hiring an unqualified CEO over 19 other candidates. The misuse of funds in the Ministry of Local Government. The question of the Student Loans Bureau, the rooms on the beach. All of this failure to act has contributed to a trust deficit which the country faces. This trust deficit affects not just the government, but it indeed affects all our vital national institutions, including our investigative agencies, the police, the Financial Investigative Division, MOCA, to name just some. It affects also our belief in the integrity of the prosecutorial arm of government, and indeed, as I said, basic national institutions, the integrity of ministries and their administration is all brought into doubt. We think it is our responsibility to not only to expose the corrupt practices taking place within government, and I want to commend the committees of Parliament, in particularly the Public Appropriations and Public Administration Committee of Parliament and the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament and other committees. But where there is no action taken before the courts or no arrests made, we have to take further action to enhance public awareness and to secure remedies on behalf of the public. And so we are really calling upon everyone, including civil society, the churches, the private sector, all well-thinking citizens, to ponder on these things and to take action now. Specifically, however, we are calling on the board of the CMU to be relieved of its responsibilities immediately by the government. And we are calling upon the Ministry of Education to ensure that all the contracts which have been inappropriately and improperly executed at the CMU to be rescinded. We are also saying that the president of the CMU needs to return to leave until the investigations are completed. We also need an immediate status report under this as to the state of the investigations involving the CMU, the Ministry of Education, and we need to know also what is the status of the investigations in respect to Petrojam and the associated agencies. In fact, we think that all the investigations need to be reported on immediately in all the scandal-ridden agencies, some of which I mentioned before. We expect that these reports should be forthcoming within 30 days, and a timeline must be given to the public to show the government's commitment to transparency and integrity. In the absence of this, then I believe we in the parliamentary opposition and the other national stakeholders will have to consider what action needs to be taken further, because we will not participate in this normalization of corrupt behavior in government. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Members of the media, if there are any questions, please raise your hand or say your name, identify the media host, and direct question to who you'd like to hear from.
Well, they don't have any.
Come on, there are questions. There are questions.
Speak now or forever hold
There are
your
questions.
peace.
Say your name and the media host.
Okay, I have two questions so far. Andrea Chisholm from Television Jamaica. First of all, Dr. Phillips, the Director of Public Prosecutions was on television today. She's insisting that there's not sufficient information so far to go forward with the case, and the country is not, to use her words, a banana republic, and the rule of law must prevail. I don't know if the opposition has information otherwise.
Well, I agree with her that we ought not to be a banana republic. I didn't hear her own comments, but I believe that given that it was said earlier by her that there was a basis for charges to be laid, that it is of some concern that the placement of these charges has taken the time that it has taken. It raises in our minds, we are not privy to the state of the investigations, but given what was said and given the supposed work of these agencies, and given the way in which ordinary Jamaicans are treated when much lesser charges are applied, we have very grave concerns about the inaction of the relevant agencies in this regard.
Okay. Second question, Dr. Phillips. Regarding the ATI issue from the 20-year to the proposed extension to 70 years, you sent out a statement, so too did the Office of the Prime Minister. Have you spoken to the Prime Minister since then regarding the issue, and how will this affect the relationship with the government, Prime Minister, going forward?
I haven't spoken to the Prime Minister since then. And quite frankly, I don't really have anything to add to what I said in the statement. It is quite unusual and beyond my experience that any exchange of private views, in this instance a 3-minute or less conversation, could be unilaterally reported upon in a self-serving and inaccurate way. I have had the opportunity over many years to deal with many other parliamentary leaders, including from his side, Mr. Siaga and Mr. Golding, and I've never had this experience. And I think it brings the prospect of the usual exchanges that should take place into question.
Liver and Barrett, do you know? I mean, permit me to follow up on the question that my colleague just asked you. What I want to understand clearly is how do you go forward in consultations with the Prime Minister given this misrepresentation? How do you...
Maybe with third parties present? Who knows?
And secondly, in the case of Mr. Othniel Lawrence, given the fact that he has a contract that remains in force, there are no allegations against him, how differently should the matter be handled?
That is a question, quite frankly, that his lawyers and the CMU needs to address. The question that is at the heart of it is, from the point of view of public administration, was whether proper procedures were followed in the appointment, and if they were not, what implications would that have for the status of the contracts?
No, but I was talking more in terms of his continued remuneration. And I think you went there in your remarks.
Look, I have no particular grouse with Mr. Lawrence. My concern is with the way in which public funds are being pay persons for contracts which may not have been properly executed. In that case, if he has a claim against the government or the CMU, then it is a matter for himself and his lawyers. In the meantime, we are concerned with the status of the governance procedures and that the taxpayer should not be called upon to bear the cost of maladministration.
So just to be clear, you would have sent him on vacation, stopped the payment. I want to be clear as to how you would have handled a similar situation.
It wouldn't have happened.
Thank you, Mr. Any other questions? Let me take,
Okay, come on, sure.
I'm Kafitz Henley, Nationwide News. Good afternoon to you, sir. Question to Dr. Phillips. The final line of your statement says, if the administration does not take a course of action that satisfies us, we will have to plan and take further action. What is or what are those actions which are within your contemplation?
Well, the first thing we'd have to do is to consult with other stakeholders and to see what is happening, to see what may be open to us through the courts, to see what may be open through other action, including protest action.
Okay. The shadow cabinet is solely the prerogative of you as opposition leader. I wanted to know, why was Dr. Campbell left out?
I'm not going to make any comment on any individual because of the risk of those comments being invidious. I would just make a simple point. Long before there was any contest announced or underway, I had indicated that I intended to reorganize, reshuffle the shadow cabinet. I am therefore struck that the contest having got underway, we know where Dr. Campbell was, but we also know where other members of the team were. They have been appointed, reappointed. Some have been left out. I am struck that the assumption is made that the leaving out has to do solely and exclusively with the position that he took in the campaign. It's not supported by either logic or evidence.
If I could ask a follow-up to that, sir, seeing that Andrea has raised it, I think the debate which I hear within sections of the party and also in the public domain regarding Dr. Campbell is that, for example, as a person who covers Parliament, he was among the more vocal in his portfolio that at times made the current portfolio minister uncomfortable. And I think that is where the question has come up. Why has he been left out of the shadow cabinet? And especially in the context of you speaking about unity. And some folks are wondering, and I put it to you, is that a sign of, because he was the campaign director, you are applying, for want of a better word, vindictive approach?
Well, I can answer that question, and the answer is definitively no. I took the best judgment in relation to all the persons concerned, taking into account contributions which are not restricted only to parliamentary performance, the political needs of the party, the needs of the country and the various sectors, the views of persons in the various sectors, and took my decision. It is mine. I live or die, sink or swim on the basis of the decisions that I have made to the best of my ability and the best of my judgment at this point in time.
Final point on that issue. There's a view, though, that Dr. Morris Guy, with all due respect to him, will not be able to do as an effective job in terms of standing up to his portfolio counterpart.
He was just honored by the Medical Association of Jamaica and is viewed to be a practitioner of high repute. I think that he has demonstrated in other areas of his public service a capacity for excellence, and I think he should be given a chance. Thank you. All right, thank you very much.